Welcome to the Awesemo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with one Adam Ship my money share, as we have been dealt a unique Thursday lineup with, wait for it, no main slate, if you want to call it that. There is one 6 p.m. game, one 8 p.m. game. That's it. So the sites are loading up on the nooners. We've got a 6-game slate on DraftKings starting at 12:10. FanDuel's going with the 5-gamer. There's a lonely 3 o'clock game sitting out there somewhere. Yahoo, of course, will be going from first pitch to the end of the day on their various slates. So we've got everything all over the place. Adam, how are you doing? It seems like it's been forever since I've talked to you, even though it's been 48 hours.
Doing well. Had a nice early slate yesterday. Didn't take down, got third in the large field $15 or whatever it was on DraftKings. So nice way to make a little bit of money in the middle of the week and hopefully follow it up with some more today.
There you are. Yeah, I was on a kind of a big downturn, and outside of PGA, which I played the most, I had played all year, played just shy of $300, got $32 back. Very exciting there. But fortunately, I turned it around on Saturday with the NASCAR All-Star race. I started hitting on all cylinders with baseball, so I sort of pulled out of the nosedive and recovered those losses from PGA and a little something extra here on Monday. So as we're heading into Thursday here, I'm at least smiling once again. It's funny how you start to get down on yourself when these streaks last. And though I was my worst days outside of that PGA day, I lose, if I have a bad day, I lose like 30 to 50% of my buy-ins. So it's different because when I win, I maybe double up or maybe triple up on the big days. Otherwise, I'll make, be somewhere between 10 and 25%. So there's not going in the red, and you're not, doing victory laps and celebrating and doing cartwheels. But when you get those 90% loss days, you just feel like total trash.
Yeah, for sure. And, obviously they can add up for anyone. So,
because it only takes 2 or 3 of those. And then you're like, shit, this is going to take me 2 or 3 weeks to get back out of this hole. So.
Yeah, it's I think it's a big thing that kind of goes overlooked from a mental standpoint is not really getting that up or down on how each individual day goes. It's more about figuring out that, making sure that you're getting the lineups that you want and putting your best lineups in play. And, just making sure you're not making mistakes like with Fantasy Crunch or Rewind and not getting too caught up in day-to-day results, because it's still a season-long sport that you just kind of get you get decision points every day, but you're still looking to make money over the course of the season.
Yeah, and I've heard this week on shows both you and Jake independently of each other say that, and I think that's a very good way to approach it. Meaning, keep your eye on the prize, realize that you get to do things in the minutia, in the micro level, but it's a macro level race, and they're, with the way they've got things split up now, there are probably there's just over 180 days of baseball, 162 games per team, and then there's probably about 230, 250 what I would call playable slates, meaning 4 games or more, and that's a long way to go. Plus, you got all the 2-game and 3-game slates in there as well. So, in any event, let's talk about this one. Again, everybody's approaching it slightly differently. We're going to go game by game here. You will get the DFS strategy show in the morning. Adam will be writing the deep dive. That'll be geared towards this main slate here. Both sites, both the popular main sites there have sizable enough prize pools that warrants it. A couple 100,000 on each. They're not going overboard, but these aren't tiny by any stretch of the imagination. I think a lot of that is driven by the fact that there's only 2 games, and one of them's at 6 o'clock. So it's going to muck up everybody's normal start time before we head into the holiday weekend. But let's start off here, Adam, with the Washington Nationals finishing up this series with the New York Mets. If I'm doing the math from when I heard this on their first game of this series, this will be the 48th game for the Nationals this year, the 13th time they have played the Mets. So we've got Steven Strasburg going against Steven Matz. Take it away.
Yeah, so Strasburg's been really, really good this year. One of the better pitchers in baseball. He has a favorable matchup against the Mets, who have a lot of injuries right now. Brandon Nimmo's missed the last couple of days. Michael Conforto on the injury list. Robinson Cano left partway through yesterday's game, and Jeff McNeil's questionable for this game as well. So potentially 4 of the better hitters on the Mets not in the lineup. At best, it would be 2 or 3. So a watered down lineup for Strasburg. And the other good thing is that the players that replace them are not only usually right-handed, but they also strike out a lot. You'll see more Carlos Gomez and Juan Lagares lineups with the current version of the Mets, which increases upside for the opposing pitcher. Strasburg has made some improvements this year from previous years when he already was good, and so I think it's a really good spot. The only thing I guess to point out is that Strasburg is the most expensive pitcher on the slate. You do have some other really good pitchers, notably Matt Boyd facing the Marlins, who we'll talk about a little bit later, but you also have Aaron Nola in Wrigley. You have Masahiro Tanaka facing the Orioles. So it's not that you have to pay up a pitcher, but I think that Strasburg is in a really good spot.
All right. And I do want to call it, they just posted the contest here. We're recording this Wednesday night. They just posted the contest on Yahoo, and they are actually going to be going with the 5-game main slate starting at 1 o'clock, encompassing everything. So once we get to the 1 o'clock games and the 2 o'clock game, we'll call out pricing for them as well. But for those of you that are in a panic or in a rush and just now listening to this, you got yourself another hour to set lineups there. With regards to going with anybody against Steven Matz here, he's been a little bit hit or miss. He's a guy I like because he does have strikeout upside when we take him. This is not particularly the current iteration of the the NL East, where I want to be looking to him against many teams. And the Nationals are getting healthy now. So you got Trey Turner back at the top of the order. That's helpful from just making pitchers nervous when he's on first base because he has such excellent stolen base upside. You've got Anthony Rendon, who has just been mashing lefties with over his last 180 at-bats, a 400 WOBA, a 308 isolated power. Juan Soto, a career 380 WOBA, 230 ISO. I say career because, he started last year. And then you've got Kurt Suzuki, if he is in the lineup. He or Yan Gomes are also reasonably good here against lefties. So I'm not really as excited about Matz as I would be in most situations, just because the better hitters here for the Nationals are all righties, with the exception of Soto, who hits righties better than just about any other National.
Yeah, and in addition to right-handed power and just overall good hitters in this lineup, you have speed too. And despite being left-handed, Steven Matz is awful at holding base runners. Trey Turner, I think, is one of the top plays on the entire slate. But you also have some other guys on the Nats who aren't, prototypical base stealers like Turner is, but that can potentially run on Matz and give them even more upside than they already have. So I don't really want to get to a whole lot of Matz here. Obviously, with it being a 6-game slate and he's reasonably priced, I would probably get to some, but it's not someone that I'm prioritizing. There are guys in his price range that I feel a little bit better about.
All right, well, let's continue on here. The next game near and dear to your heart, we've got the New York Yankees playing Baltimore for basically the 100th time this season. Dylan Bundy is the next pitcher walking. He has the luxury of only having faced the Yankees twice this year, and he managed to last 7 1/3 inning in those outings, gave up 6 earned runs, only 2 home runs. I say only because it seems like all of the Yankees hit all of their home runs against the Orioles starting pitchers, but he is a bit of a mess here. He does have the strikeout upside if things are going well for him, but he is also, last year he led the league with 43 home runs, and he is amongst the league leaders at this point. He did get 7 strikeouts in his last game against Cleveland, just 2 against the Angels, and 4 against Tampa Bay, and then 8 against Minnesota. So you can see he does have some potential here. We're always terrified of him, but at 6,800, do you feel like taking it, dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight today, Adam?
Yeah, there's a couple things I think working, or not, I don't even want to say working in his favor, but things that make Bundy a really appealing tournament option for me. Whereas, so when we talked about Steven Matz, we talked about how it's a dangerous matchup because of the right-handed power and the speed in the Nats lineup. I don't think the Nats will get, they'll obviously get ownership, but I wouldn't expect them to be like the highest owned team on the slate. The Yankees have just been absolutely destroying the baseball, and they've been really popular. They're paying people off. I would expect people to look to go right back there against Bundy. So if you're going to take a risk on a boom or bust pitcher like this, it's preferable to get one that's facing a highly owned stack because you get more reward for the risk that you're taking. On top of that, the Yankees projected lineup has 7 right-handed hitters in it. While Bundy is giving up a massive amount of power to righties, he has struck out 29.5%. So there is at least a path to him getting those, 2.75 point at bats that make up for a home run or two as long as no one's on base. Bundy he's allowed to throw a lot of pitches. He can give you, 6-7 innings, and his price tag's cheap enough where he can afford to give up a few home runs as long as they don't come with guys on base. He can make up for it with the strikeouts. And if he actually goes out there and throws a gem, then you get the leverage on top of it. So I do like Bundy in tournaments at this price point.
Yeah. Plus, just remember baseball. I mean, we've said nothing but bad things about Adrian Sampson all year for Texas, yet somehow he managed to hold the Seattle Mariners to 1 earned run while he was in there, had 5 strikeouts. Weird stuff can happen. Let's hope it happens for Bundy, who, by the way, was someone 2 years ago and 3 years ago we were always excited when he was going to be starting because we thought he was being overlooked. Now, 2 years ago, that was a good thing. Last year, it got kind of expensive because of the home run troubles, but this year, reasonable spot. So just keep that in mind from a strategy perspective, as Adam so nicely laid out for us. Looking to Masahiro Tanaka gets one of the more intriguing matchups against Baltimore, who has been hitting the ball much better, Adam, kind of across the board. It's like everybody's pulled out of their nosedive, but he's still a good, solid pitcher. And we have, 88 degrees at first pitch. That's at noon, or pardon me, 12:30. Going to be a warm one here in the Metro DC area, but that is just a 3.7 implied run total here for Baltimore. How are you feeling about Tanaka?
He's someone that I do want to dig into more. I remember seeing tweets from his last start about his splitter potentially looking better, and that's something that's important because so far this season, his strikeout percentage is down. He's only struck out 22.7% of hitters. That has trended up over his last couple of starts. Before that, he was at like 21.5%. And he's someone that normally you get at 24, 25%. And he's normally among the league leaders in swinging strike percentage, which hadn't been the case this year. But in his last start, he had a 17% swinging strike percentage. If he's getting that pitch back and he's getting more movement on it, getting more swings and misses, then suddenly you're getting an underpriced Tanaka as opposed to an overpriced one if he's the version that he has been for the beginning of the season. So I do intend to dig into him a bit more. I'll obviously talk about it in the deep dive article that I write for this slate. But I think that at 9,300 on DraftKings, he's certainly an option, especially in tournaments. Almost $2,000 off of Steven Strasburg gives you the ability to get some better bats into your lineup. So I think that he's in a pretty decent spot. The Orioles don't strike out a ton, only about 22.5% against right-handed pitchers this season. And they have actually been hitting reasonably well, like you said. But if Tanaka is improving and going to get more swings and misses, then I think that it's a pretty nice price point for him.
All right, continuing along here, we're off to Pennsylvania, where we're going to look at the Pittsburgh Pirates finishing up their series against the Colorado Rockies. We have Jordan Lyles. Revenge? Jordan Lyles going against the Rockies. We know the Rockies are clearly not as good outside of Coors Field. This has been a trend for quite some time, and even park-adjusted factors show that they are not that great in general. So, of course, the altitude does a lot to help them out, but they do have some solid hitters at the top with Blackman, Story, Arenado, Dahl, Tapia, Daniel Murphy, who seemingly is broken in many different ways, but he is theoretically healthy. He's batting 6th. Tough matchup there for Lyles, but the Rockies only have a 4.0 implied run total. Antonio Senzatella is going for Colorado. He has got a 4.6 implied run total against him with Pittsburgh. Potential for a little bit of weather in this one. It looks like there are scattered showers, so we should be okay. Check back again closer to first pitch just to see if anything's materializing near the ballpark. That would be PNC Park. What would you like to do with Senzatella and Jordan Lyles, who are favorably priced for their matchups against the opposing team?
I don't really have interest in Senzatella, just not enough strikeouts there for him or in this Pirates lineup for me to really be interested. For Lyles, I have a bit of interest. I think he's a little more expensive than I would like, but at 8,500, he's fine if he ends up in my lineups. By that I mean like if I get the hitters that I want and I have 8,500 left over, I'm not gonna look to avoid Lyles. I would rather get Lyles than John Lester, for example, at a similar price point. It's a perfectly fine matchup against the Rockies outside of Coors. Lyles does have the third highest strikeout percentage on the slate, behind only Strasburg and Matthew Boyd. He's been improved this year, so I think that there's certainly merit to getting the Lyles. It's just that he's a little bit more expensive than I would like if I was actually going to prioritize him as a top play.
All right, I'm looking at our next one here because we don't have a line yet. Ryan Weber, right-hander, should be going for Boston. I'm just checking to see here. He has been in the minors, but he's been up. Let's see, he's been up with been up with Boston since May 6th, though he has only appeared 3 times for 8 total innings, pitching going 55-14 in 64 pitches. While he was in the minors, he started 5 games for Pawtucket. His last 4 starts were 79, 68, 93, and 87 pitches, of course. That last one came on May 2nd. So that was 3 weeks ago. He's gone over 55 twice. I would guess we'll see him for somewhere between 65 and 70 pitches against Toronto. So that has him in play at 5,900. Toronto looks like they're going to be doing an opener. I've got no real confirmation here, but if we go by what DK has, they've got Joe Biagini, who will be making the opener role. He should be good for about 15 to 25 pitches. Just kind of depends how it goes. But it sounds like Clayton Richard is coming off the injured list to make his debut this season. He he had a rehab start down there for AAA Buffalo. Went 48 pitches. They are guessing he'll probably go around 50-55 pitches. A lot of question marks here for the hurlers in this one, but they are cheap, Adam, and we do have to start 2 of them on DraftKings. I would not look to any of these guys on FanDuel. Of course, they're not on the Yahoo slate. What would you like to do with this trio of turkeys, is what we're going to call them?
Yeah, I don't really see getting to the pitching here. I think that there's enough cheap options with some upside on this slate that I don't need to mess around with those guys. I'd rather go to bats, particularly Toronto is inexpensive against Ryan Weber and whoever comes in after him for Boston. You still get a lot of power upside with guys like Smoke. Vlad Guerrero is still underpriced. So mostly bats from this game for me.
All right. Now that's fair because this next one we've got some intriguing pitching options. This is the first 1 o'clock game that we have. So we're going to talk about Matt Boyd and Trevor Richards. This one is in Detroit as the Marlins finish up their series there. We have on DK Richards is 75, on DK Boyd is 10,300. On Yahoo, this will be the final game of their morning slate. Boyd is 9,500, Richards is 6,700. Pardon me, that was on FanDuel. And then on Yahoo, which this is the first game, FanDuel, it's the last game. Yahoo, the first game, Boyd is 52 and Trevor Richards is 36. I'm sensing a lot of Trevor Richards' interest is going to be coming from you today, Adam.
Yeah, there are strikeouts in the Tigers lineup. They are predominantly right-handed. And while last year we saw Richards give up power to righties, he did have a higher strikeout percentage against righties at 24.8% compared to 21.2% for lefties. This year, still giving up power to righties, but an even bigger split in his strikeout numbers. 26.2% strikeout percentage against right-handed hitters, just 13.8% to left-handed hitters. He's throwing his changeup more to righties. He has a 22.9% swinging strike percentage on that pitch. So he does have a swing and miss pitch for righties. The changeup is just that good that he can throw it to same-handed hitters as well. And he's affordably priced. So he gets a park downgrade going from Miami to Detroit. But I do think that he has a more favorable matchup than Steven Matz. He has a more favorable matchup than Dylan Bundy. He has enough strikeout upside in the spot that I have interest in Richards.
All right. Now then the $1 million question is Matt Boyd, most expensive pitcher we're going to be looking at, has has struggled just a little bit. Now he's gone against Oakland, won 101 pitches, made it 6 in a third inning, gave up 2 home runs, 4 earned runs, 8 strikeouts. So if that's struggling, that's not too bad. And then the game before that against Houston, we're going to give him a pass, but he had 96 pitches, gave up 2 home runs, just 3 earned runs, lasted 4 innings because his pitch count got up there. But he on the season has a 10.8 strikeout per 9. He has a 3.4 ERA, a 1.01 whip, meaning doesn't have a lot of base runners there. And then he strands them when they get on base because he has such a high strikeout rate. Adam, he's going against one of the worst offenses in the league in the Marlins. Yes, they get to substitute their pitcher for whomever is going to play DH for them, but that just means we're getting a 5th outfielder or a utility player that would probably be on any other team's minor league squad. What are you doing with Matt Boyd?
I love Matt Boyd here. I'm hoping that we get an ownership discrepancy like we did with Verlander and Caleb Smith the other day. Obviously, if you went the Caleb Smith route, it didn't work out because Verlander had a Verlander-esque start where he was amazing, and Caleb Smith got pulled an inning early, and then the bullpen blew the win. But you saw Smith be a little overpriced relative to Verlander, and you saw everyone just flock to Verlander. He was like 40% owned to Caleb Smith's 10%. I think that there's a chance we get something kind of similar to that here. Maybe not 40-10, but maybe something like 35-15 or something like that. And Boyd has been legitimately good this year with like basically any number you look at. His 29.9% strikeout percentage is second on the slate to Strasburg. 5.3% walk percentage is one of the best on the slate. 24.6% K minus BB percentage is second only to Strasburg. 3.59 xFIP, ranks 13th out of all starting pitchers who have thrown at least 300 pitches in called strike plus swinging strike percentage. For context, he's sandwiched right between Justin Verlander and Charlie Morton in that category. Strasburg is third, so Strasburg again has been better. In PCRA, which is an ERA estimator that is a bit more predictive than xFIP is, and that I've started looking at. He is in the top 10, again behind Strasburg, but in the top 10. And he's coming off of three straight games in difficult matchups against the Angels, the Astros, and the Athletics. Now you get to face this Miami team that is not very good, has plenty of swings and misses in the lineup. If ownership is equal or close to equal, go ahead and give me Strasburg for a little bit more money because he has been that good. But if I'm going to get a discount on Matt Boyd against the Marlins, then I'll be happy to load up on Boyd.
All right, we've got we'll quickly hit the pitchers on the other games just since Yahoo is the presenting sponsor of the Early Bird, and they've got their main slate covering the 1 through 8 o'clock games, so we can do that for you guys, no problem. The last game on the DK early main slate is Philadelphia at Chicago. So they're checking in with Aaron Nola at 9,700, John Lester at 8,300. That game is going to be probably a standalone or on some other sub-slate for FanDuel that has not been posted yet. On Yahoo, this duo is checking in at 45 for Nola and 40 for Lester, respectively. Difficult matchups on both sides for the pitchers. I'm not really excited for either set of hitters. If I was going to be taking people, I would probably be poking the bear. That would be the Chicago Cubs with John Lester. I'd consider Hoskins and Harper just because I like that duo against pretty much anybody. What would you like to do with this particular matchup? Because it feels like we're playing with a little bit of fire. They are priced for the matchup appropriately. I'm just not seeing a lot of wiggle room unless there's a specific angle you would like to attack one of these guys with.
Well, for one, we want to make sure that we check the wind later or in the morning. But if we assume neutral wind here, I don't really have much interest in either pitcher. I think that Lester is okay. I think he's better than he was last year, due in large part to increased cutter usage. But I still don't think he's a great strikeout pitcher or anything like that. And he has a pretty difficult matchup with the Phillies. And then Nola is a good pitcher, but again, a tough matchup with the Cubs on a slate where you have plenty of other pitching at the top that you can go to. So I would be more interested in the bats, particularly for me, the Phillies. They just have a right-handed heavy lineup that also has speed. And we know that Lester, like Cole Hamels, he's gotten better at holding runners than he was earlier in his career, but he's still not great at it. And I think that you can, get to some of these Phillies bats because they do have a nice combination of speed and power from the right side. Lester's allowed a 126 ISO to righties so far this year, but a 174 expected ISO, maybe some more power coming in the future. So getting to the Phillies, I think, is a pretty decent spot.
All right. Next one's a little easier. We have this is Yahoo only. Looks like the other sites probably they have not released slates with this on it yet. They probably will have single game contests, or they may cobble it together with either the 6 o'clock or the 2 o'clock game and make it a 3 game. They're probably a 2 game slate, but this is the Atlanta Braves finishing up their series in San Francisco. You've got Kevin Gausman at 3,800 on Yahoo. Madsen Bumgarner at $40. While I don't really want to tangle with the Bravos, Bumgarner has topped 100 pitches in each of his last 6 starts. So from a price per pitch, you're definitely getting a favorable shake here. He has averaged 6 innings over those starts, going 5 2/3 in one, 6 1/3 in the other, and then 6 even in the remaining ones. Reasonable strikeouts, just over 1 per inning. On the other side, Kevin Gausman, love his talent. Like that he's in the AL, the NL, no longer having to face the AL East in the smaller ballparks and against a DH. We have seen moments from him. Pitch count hasn't quite been there. 94 in his last outing against Milwaukee. We like that. It was 84, 85 in the 2 prior to that. Then it was 28 in a mess there against Miami, and then 79 against Colorado, 88 against Cincinnati. So we got to figure he's going to be in the mix for 90. Don't think it'll be much over that just based on this old track record here. What would you like to do on the Yahoo only side? I think Gausman I want him to be one of my 2 pitchers potentially, but we have some, and that's only because Strasburg, remember, is not on this early one. We only start with the Boyd and the Trevor Richards. So would you consider Gausman over one of those guys?
Yeah, I think that both of these guys are favorably priced on Yahoo. $38 for Gausman, $40 for Bumgarner. Gausman has made improvements this year, finally throwing his splitter more to both sides of the plate, striking out 24.5% of hitters. Bumgarner's at a 25% strikeout rate this year. Just a 4.3% walk percentage for Bumgarner is very, very good. He actually, out of all pitchers pitching today, he has the third highest K minus BB percentage behind Strasburg and Boyd. So he's been, good this season. He's in a favorable park. Tough matchup, but the price tag's just affordable. You're on Yahoo, you have a $12 discount from Boyd to Bumgarner. He's only $4 more than Richards, $2 more than Gausman. Same price as Lester. It's a pretty appealing spot for Bumgarner.
All right. The 6 o'clock game should be relatively easy. You've got Adam Plutko going for Cleveland. They will be hosting Tampa Bay, so this is the start of a new series here that will go through the weekend. Tampa Bay is slated to have Ryan Stanek be the opener with Ryan Yarbrough coming in as the secondary player. I don't really like any of the 3 in this matchup. Would you give them any consideration on Yahoo here?
No, not looking to the pitching there. There's enough cheap guys on Yahoo that you don't need to get there. I do think that Plutko is interesting. Only $30. He did struggle with left-handed power last year. Actually struggled with power in general, but he was really bad against lefties. He only struck out 12.4% of left-handed hitters since the start of last season compared to 24.6% of righties. So it's a scary matchup when you have guys like Meadows, Choi, Brandon Lau, Kiermaier all in the lineup. But the price tag is really, really cheap.
All right. Do you have Yahoo actually open?
Like the website or the
price? Just their game. So anyway, if you ever see the player picture for Adam Plutko, he looks like a guy who would be carrying a rack of beer and selling it in the outfield at Cleveland Stadium.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I would buy from him and say, yep, that's my kind of guy. So there we are with that one. Finishing this out. And again, the other sites haven't really posted any sizable contests yet for the late ones. So just keeping this all Yahoo centric with the pricing. We have Corbin Martin for 33. That is Houston going against the White Sox. On the other side, we have Lucas Giolito taking on the Houston Astros, which is a tough matchup. But he is $30. So Interesting price points there. I think I would lean towards Martin if I was going to go from this particular duo, but I think it's still going to be a tall order for Martin to go, more than 80, 84, 85 pitches. That might get him into the fifth inning, maybe through the fifth inning. So qualifying for the win may be a little bit tough. What are your final thoughts as we get on out of here on Thursday?
Martin's probably the best pitching play on Yahoo. It's a nice matchup against the White Sox. He's got good strikeout stuff. He was really bad in his last outing, but he was facing the Red Sox, and that just kind of happens. I don't think that Martin is like an elite pitcher yet. I think he has the potential to get there. He showed plenty of strikeout upside throughout the minor leagues. He showed plenty of strikeout upside in his first start against Texas. I think that the stuff is there. I think that he's still young, and going forward, you'll see him develop into a better pitcher. But Houston has confidence in him, and this is a team that obviously has their choice of pitching. And the fact that they're willing to bring this 22-year-old kid up, and they think he's ready to take this rotation spot from Colin McHugh, I think says a lot when you consider the organization. And then the stuff is seemingly there to back it up. So I think that getting Corbin Martin at a really cheap price tag, coming off of a brutal start where he didn't strike anyone out, is a really favorable spot to be at in tournaments, because he probably will kind of go overlooked because people will go to the known commodity and someone like Bumgarner for a bit more, when they could be getting what I think is going to be an above average strikeout pitcher against the White Sox.
All right. With that, we have wrapped you up here. We got you through the pitching of every single game on the Thursday slate. We're going to have a lot of content Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and do not forget, Monday will be holiday. Shout out to everybody who has given their everything in service to our country. We appreciate that, and we'll have content for everything. NASCAR race Sunday night. That is for the 3-day weekend. It's Coca-Cola 600. It's the one down there in the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We've already got some content up for that. You've got golf going on. Make sure you jump on that. That goes off at I think 6:30 on Thursday morning. So if you're listening to this Wednesday night, don't forget to set your lineups. It's always important. You don't want to go in there with zeros. And then of course, baseball. We've got you taken care of with that sport as well. You can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS on Twitter. I am at EmacDFS, and it is Osimo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.